So you're no longer playing basketball competitively. Kudos to you for making such a decision. I think a lot of people, stay in things that maybe aren't the right fit for them, but they never take that leap. So I commend you on doing so. But you've mentioned a problem in NYT, New York Tough, multiple times, and it seems like something that you're incredibly passionate about. So can you talk a little bit about each of those for me and how they came about? A problem in New York Tough. So I've kind of mentioned it my freshman year, right? And some people, the people who know me know what that year was like. People who don't have their, speculations. Maybe you've heard things around the country. Maybe I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Here is what it is. And I'm not even about to go into detail. The book that I'm writing, by that, I'll fully detail it, full color. But my freshman year was turbulent. That is a great word for it. It felt like if a lot of times that I couldn't control the narrative surrounding me. Now, granted, I didn't really talk. So there was a lot of room, and I wasn't very confrontational either. That is, both of those things have since changed. I can't shut up, and don't try me because I will come after you in my own way. But either way, the narratives were mainly negative, mainly just false for one, but just not true. And I couldn't control it. And by the time that I was maybe prepared to do so, it was too late. People already believed what they believed. I could have, and I tried to reverse it, to flip it, to change it, to, whatever word, insert synonym, and it didn't feel right for me. It didn't ever truly feel right. A large part of the year was not good. And I also didn't understand the emotional strife. I didn't know what to do about it because I'm a worker. Like, I work at things. I said I'm a learner before, but if I don't know something, I'm going to work to learn it. If I can't do something, I'm going to work to fix it. I'm going to work to remedy. Like, I'm trying to find answers. I'm a problem solver. That is what I do. I see a problem. It's like, okay, what's my first step? Okay, what's second, third, fourth, etc. But with Notre Dame, I couldn't quite find my footing, and I could never solve this problem in front of me, no matter how hard I worked. I worked till my fingers bled, literally fingers bled from shooting so much, from dribbling so much, like outside of our practice times, from working out on my own. Like, the second semester, I started training myself because I wasn't playing, started training myself and like sinking into the weight room. We were in a Final Four. I'm like in there like 3 o'clock in the morning just because I'm doing these different things and trying to learn. Like, back then I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach for elite athletes because I was so invested in fixing this problem and feeling like I wasn't athletic enough, I wasn't this enough. And that was the reason that I didn't play, or that, I was overlooked, or somebody played over, or, whatever it is. So either way, I felt like a lot of times, in that whole year, looking back on it, my self-worth was depleted. I had zero self-worth. I identified fully as a basketball player. Jordan Nixon is basketball. Basketball is Jordan Nixon. So if I go into a space and people who know the game, people who are very well versed on this world and what it takes and all this stuff are telling me like, no, it's this, you should have done this, it's that, da, 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 da. And in a way that may not have been, I'm just trying to speak very objectively, that may not have been appropriate for me as a person, I left there feeling like I'm dumb. I don't get it. I can't comprehend things. I never really thought I was good or above. Sure, I was a McDonald's All-American. Sure, I, did this, and this, but I'm not an arrogant person. I was just confident. I'm from New York City, so we talking about going somewhere and treating, kissing somebody's ass, or, taking a name and feeling like, being starstruck. Like, no, the only person I've ever been starstruck around is J. Cole, because I mean, he's cold, like, you know what I'm saying? But all in all, like, I'm not that person. And I feel like a lot of who I was didn't fit in that environment. So of course it's going to be more difficult for me to conform because I'm not a conformist, or like, I don't, so yeah, I was isolating myself. But I can kind of go back to that. But all in all, I left there feeling like I didn't know who I was. I had, everything that I was, or that, then was wrong, was bad, was negative, wasn't good for high level D1, wasn't, that I maybe shouldn't. It wasn't really a level thing. It was just more like, if I can't make it at Notre Dame, what am I doing? So I went back for my sophomore year. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, but then something else happened where this narrative about me had carried over into that next season. And my coaches thought I was a rat, basically, that I told somebody something to tell them not to come to the school. And I'm not like that. Like, back then, I was a very private person. I wouldn't even tell you what I had for dinner if you didn't ask me directly. Like, so no, I'm not going to talk about, I'm never going to tell somebody, oh yeah, don't go to Notre Dame. Like that, and then show up to the school. That doesn't make any damn sense. But either way, nobody knew who I was because I didn't take that initiative and tell them when they assumed. So I let them assume. But I left that experience feeling broken. Absolutely broken. And then that summer, I did a lot of soul searching or finding myself in a way. Like that summer, I rediscovered my love for writing, my passion for writing. I wrote a screenplay. It's not anything to call home about, I'm not gonna lie, but the story is there. I will watch that movie. But either way, I spent a lot of time just trying to maybe regain some confidence, to not feel like I was lowered and low or whatever. And I kind of started to enjoy basketball again because I hated it after that year. I just didn't want to do it. It didn't feel good. But thinking back, a lot of the things that I then associated with basketball were very negative, very triggering, all these different things. And I mean, it was just about kind of figuring out what it was that I was feeling. And I made the USA team that spring in May. I made the team. I was supposed to go to training camp July 5th. The night of July 5th, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm standing outside. And I've told this story before. I'm standing outside and I can't breathe. And I'm on the phone with my best friend. I'm like, she's like, do you think you have anxiety? And I'm like, anxiety? No, I don't. Like, I've never called it that. So that I ended up going to training camp and I left. I was there for a few days. I had a sinus infection. I'm panicking in the club, crying in the club. I'm a dud. Jeff Walls literally called me a dud. And I'm not even mad at him for it because I had no identity. I had no ego, no anything. Like everything that was Jordan Nixon at that point was done. It was done. And not actually done. It was still very much there, but mentally I was shot, emotionally shot. Like I wasn't any good for anybody, not even myself. And I'm not even getting into the details of like the emotional turmoil that I associate with that time, because while it was what at that time I called the worst time in my life, that summer ended up being the best time of my life because I wasn't halfway across the world trying to prove myself when in reality I needed to just be healing. So I go into sophomore year thinking like, I'm healed, I'm good. Like 1 year of craziness, and in 2 months I've solved all my problems. I journal now, I write poetry, I sketch, I watch movies when I'm feeling low or when I need a laugh or whatever. I'm thinking I have all the answers. And when I first got to A&M, it felt like that. It felt like I found my people, I had found the place. It's hot here, like super hot. Like, I'm moving, I'm grooving, I'm throwing on little fits every day. I started putting gel in my hair, like I'm good. And the euphoria lasted for like a month, 5-6 weeks maybe, if I'm pushing it. And then I was triggered. The little things, like Coach Blair would say certain things, and I'm like, or he would bring up Notre Dame a lot, or my teammates would do something that reminded me of my old teammates, and I'm like, oh, like this is not that different. We might still be in Kansas type situation. So a lot of those triggers would put me in this space of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like it didn't happen on the court or anything like that, or not that I can, sometimes though, but mainly off the court, and I just have to sit and just like weather the storm in a way. So those triggers, I thought that was the extent of it. But then September 30th, I started writing my waiver. So if you transfer to write a waiver, you have to basically appeal, because you have a transfer rule in basketball and football that you have to redshirt. So if you file, or if your story or what happened, your testimony fits into any of the categories, I don't remember the categories for real, but you send it to the NCAA, you pick category, you send it, you write it up, draft it, get the all the facts, as much as all the evidence, blah, blah, blah. You send it to the NCAA. They weigh on it. Is it good? Are we going to permit this person to play or not? But it's a whole process, because you're trying to fit into these very strict categories. Like, I had to file on egregious behavior. Egregious is like extreme. If for those of you who don't know what it is, it's like top of the top. This is bad things. Like, these are okay. So I didn't feel right about it. I didn't, because as much as I wanted to say, like, sure, the impact of the situation on me was grave, and it was very, very serious, so much so that I'm having panic attacks and nightmares and flashbacks and like I'm being triggered in all these ways, and I'm like under attack, what it feels like. I can't focus at this point when I'm sitting down to like do work, or it's really affecting me. But I don't have words for it. I'm not really telling anybody, because I don't really know what to say, and all these things. But there's no proof. I'm looking through text messages that I sent with my mom and my best friend, and like the fact that I stopped talking to my parents. Like, I'm pulling up all this stuff that I've even blocked out, trying to put it together in a way that a stranger can read this without giving a damn about who I am, what I went through. Any of that can say, oh, well, this is not enough. This is too subjective. This is that. And I'm struggling, and the only thing I want to do is play, because again, my relationship with basketball had gotten to a place where it was like, okay, it's not basketball. It was just that situation. That waiver process was something the hell else. Every night, every time I sat down to write that waiver, I was playing Summer Walker probably, and I was crying, and I completely forgot where I was. I felt like I was sitting at a desk in South Bend again. I kid you not, it was the worst. I don't really have a lot of words for it, but it was every night. So I started writing it. I said September 30th. I handed that waiver in November 15th. After iteration, and after that, I'm like, to hell with it. Like, whatever happens, happens. I've done it, but it brought up a lot of stuff for me, and I started to get really bad, I call it, around that time. So October, a night in October was the first night that a headline, Texas A&M women's basketball player found dead in an apartment, came across my mind. That was the first time I'd ever thought anything related to self-harm, anything related to suicide, like in any capacity. And I didn't think too much of it, because I don't catastrophize things, so I kind of just let it go. But the thoughts, they were there, and as I kind of started to spiral, it wasn't until December, right before Christmas break, when I had a DEXA done, that I realized that I gained 20 pounds. And this, I'm not talking like, oh, I've gained 10 pounds of muscle, 10 pounds of fat. Like, no, I've gained weight, and it's not flattering. I stopped looking at myself in the mirror. Like, I stopped going to class. I stopped doing all these things because I couldn't focus. I wasn't who I knew myself to be, but I stopped caring about a lot of things. I stopped caring about myself, how I looked. My confidence was in the toilet. Like, it was bad. There's a lot of bad shit happening, but I didn't know what to do or say, because sometimes I'd say, like, man, I'm having a hard time. And the people around me are like, okay, it's just because you're not playing. And, they did the best they could to understand it, but to also not, put me in a panic or put themselves in a panic. So I appreciate them for their kind of like calmness, calm, cool collectedness. But all in all, like, there was so much more there that I didn't have words for, like I said. And I just wanted it to stop. I wanted it to stop. I didn't know what would stop it, but maybe food would. Because I didn't even have an appetite. I ate like little stupid things. I would eat food to like fill a void, and it never did. And it never will for anybody who's thinking that it will. The food will never fill the void. You have to face this problem, find your people, find your things that you use to cope. Like, enough writing couldn't help me. But I needed more. I needed other things, but I didn't know where to start. But either way, I put myself on a diet, did all that. So I'm thinking I'm on the up and up, the climb. And then I start traveling with the team. So that was an experience in itself. But being a redshirt, for anybody who doesn't know, so my waiver was denied, obviously, because I did not play that year. But we held out hope for such a long time. And waiver was denied, fine, but I'm traveling with my teammates. So the thought was that it would help me. But if you're on a diet and you're doing a lot of traveling, not really conducive. So I'm trying to restrict, but I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm still having this hard time. And it's honestly getting progressively worse. But I'm doing some other things that are helping me. Like, I'm exercising more, maybe too much. I started to go to the extremes. Like, I'm reading so many books. There was a month where I finished like 7 books, like something crazy like that. So I'm doing all these things to try to help myself. And it's not really working, but I'm busy. So I'm like, okay, staying busy, that's good. Staying busy is the best thing. But I wasn't in a good space. I was not okay. And even before COVID was fully took hold of this country, I was on a verge of like not on something really bad happening, for lack of a better word, like something egregious happening. And again, didn't know what to say about it. But like, those nights, my sophomore year, were scary. The one of them nights I dropped to my knees and I prayed to God that he would save me from whatever, these invisible monsters, what I call them. Like, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I wouldn't, because that is no question scary. Like, to be tortured by things you can't even see, like, nah. That's different. It's different. So in that time, and I'm skipping over some details for time's sake, but those nights were not something that I'm proud of, or not something that I would do over for anybody, for anything. Like, hell no. But COVID comes around, and I feel like I'm on a verge of a break. Like, I'm paranoid. I'm like, I feel like I'm seeing things. Like, I'm thinking of palm trees as monsters. Like, I'm tripping. And that's when I finally, I guess, told my mom, like, told some of the people around me, and they were like, oh gosh, but they too didn't really have any answers, truly. And I've been talking to the therapist, and she's helping me out, but like, I'm just convinced that it's basketball. Like, I can't do this shit no more. Like, it's done. It's me. It's threatening me, my life. Like, I'm having thoughts of self-harm. Like, it's gotten to that point. So COVID comes, lose Mr. Lullinger, lose Coach Dave, lose Uncle Bobby. Good Lord. So to add on to all the distress that I was already feeling, tack that on. I go back to New York. New York, there are portable morgues, there's a curfew, there's this, there's that. Like, there's so much going on, and obviously I'm not okay. But I'm still not okay. This is a long, wow, I'm realizing what the actual question was, and it was not about any of this, but it means something. So in all of that time from February or March, end of March to May, I'm down bad. I'm down bad in the crib. I'm hiding from the world. Like, I'm not getting out of bed. I go to sleep at whatever hour, like anxiety. But in this time too, I'm trying to find ways to like do other things. So like, I'm trying to find a way out of basketball, but from a perspective like, okay, what jobs am I gonna do? What money am I gonna make? Like, I don't have a resume. All I ever did was play basketball. I don't have any work experience, but I'm trying to figure out a plan because, as I said, I'm a problem solver. So I'm trying to solve my problems. And I guess what I ended up, going on was like writing and then photography, because again, 2019, that's all I did was write pretty much. And then photography was like this lost passion of mine. Either way, I ended up buying some secondhand camera, and that shit is a dinosaur, but I love it with all my heart. And I'm taking it everywhere. Like, there's a picture of me. I get it in May, beginning of May, and Kalani's album comes out. It was all good till it wasn't. I'm like bumping that. I'm with my camera, and I'm still not good, but it's helping. And every time I hold that camera up to my face, I feel like there's peace. And it's in it, like, inexplicable. That feeling washes over you and you never want it to stop. So I'm taking my camera outside every time we walk polo. Like, I'm not even taking pictures or nothing for real, but it was raining one day. I literally wrapped it in like a banana bag, the little bags you get in the grocery store with the bananas in them. Like, I put it so that, the camera wouldn't get damaged or anything. It was that, like, I'm serious about this. I'm serious about getting out, like, not doing it anymore, because I'm not okay. Like, I'm thinking about hurting myself, but I'm thinking about hurting myself from a perspective of legitimizing the things that I'm feeling, because nobody's taking me seriously. So I'm like, okay, do I have to cut myself for you to get it? Do I need to, you know what I'm saying? Like, all these dark things, and it wasn't okay with me, but again, didn't know how to control it. So I have my camera, I have my journals, naturally, like my little black book. Like, I got my journal with me all times, always strapped. And it wasn't until Walt, my mom and I went to Coney Island, Walt basically talked me off a ledge. Like, if we're gonna put it in words, like, that is what he did. But we started to kind of come up with some different things. So I brought my camera to Coney Island. I took some pretty nice photos, honestly, there. But it was a perspective shift. And he was like, you don't see what other people see. And he was 100% right. But what came out of that was this idea that I would continue to do these things that I've kind of found and just try some other shit. I was on the cusp of what would be my best year of college basketball. And had I walked away, it wouldn't have ever happened. Iowa State wouldn't have ever happened. The other 2 game winners wouldn't have happened. But what came out of it was a problem. To be a problem is to create your bigger picture out of your broken pieces. And I've said it. I felt broken by Notre Dame. I felt broken by my sophomore year, being a redshirt and, all of that. I felt like I was just a bunch of fragments. I had no direction, no hope, no light at the end of the tunnel, no tunnel. I don't know. I'm just in space. Like, it's just darkness. I'm shrouded in darkness. But when I picked up that camera, it gave me hope. When I was creative, it gave me hope. When I was sitting there writing, but like dreaming and thinking about, well, what could it be? What could I be? What could I do? And this has nothing to do with basketball either. It gave me hope. So I'm like, how do I legitimize all these things? Because I wanted to make a shirt for whatever reason. I wanted to take pictures. I wanted a portfolio, and I wanted to write. I wanted to tell stories. So it wasn't until even after, like a month after that, where I'm like, okay, how can I put it all together? And I'm like, oh shit, a brand. It wasn't about, more clothes or more photography or more writing. Like, it was all 3 of those together. So a problem was born. On my birthday, August 22nd, a problem as we know it was born. So it started with one t-shirt that I paid way too much money for, but I didn't know anything about anything. I wanted to do it. I did enough research. It was a very simple design. I just wanted comfort. I didn't know anything about brand building. I didn't know anything about anything other than basketball for real. And I'll do my research. Like, I have no problem with that. I actually quite enjoy it. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was doing it. And that's all that mattered. I didn't tell anybody about it for real. Like, I didn't want anybody to, for lack of a better word, shit on it. I didn't want anybody's opinion. I wanted to create something for myself because I had never done that before. And I didn't want to hide. It wasn't supposed to be a secret. It was my thing. I wanted to build it. But honestly, the motivating factor there was like, build this so you can get out. So you can say that I built this thing and it's going to carry me into the sunset, that I don't have to continue to brave these storms in a way because I'm feeling trapped. I felt trapped in what I was doing because as a college athlete, and people don't think about it this way, your education, your housing, your job is all wrapped up into one thing, and that is your performance on the court or whatever the field, wherever. Like, it's your scholarship. People don't just get scholarships to Texas A&M, to any Power 5 school, to any school in general. Like, scholarships aren't like they're not regular. It's not normal. Like, this isn't an opportunity that everybody gets. So I'm trying to build my parachute, build my golden parachute, and that was it. But it was fun because I'm doing the things that I love to do, and I'm unbothered because I'm literally not even giving anybody a chance to tell me no. To discourage me, don't do this, don't do that, blah, blah. Like, I wasn't trying to hear any of it. So when I came out with a problem on August 22nd, 2020, that for me was the start of it all, like the start of my new journey, like as a brand owner. Like, I'm feeling good about myself. I'm feeling better about myself than I did a month before that, 2 months before that, a year before that. Like, it's given me purpose because while telling stories and writing and photography was something that made me feel alive, that made me feel like I was doing something good for myself and that I wasn't hiding, that I wasn't holding my secret, I knew that other people might be able to resonate with it. And that's the premise of like building a brand, building something that other people can stand with you in, if that makes sense. So with the problem, like it was difficult for me because, again, those stories that I was telling myself was like, who would want to buy this? Who would want to engage with this? Like the designs that I'm making, like they're not this, they're not that. I could never be. I'm not creative. I'm not blah blah blah. And the whole time, like I'm stifling myself, and I don't even recognize it. But again, I'm still battling anxiety. I'm still battling depression. I'm thinking a problem's gonna make it go away. But I know that being creative and having that outlet is what I needed. So I kept with it, even though it was kind of stagnant for a while. And I really tried to press it, but I just, in those low moments and dealing with all that stuff, it's hard. It's hard to get out of it. It's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to get in the shower. It's hard to take care of yourself. It's hard to do any of that. And if you know, you know. If you know, you know. And if you don't, I hope you empathize with those people who are literally fighting this internal battle with this enemy that y'all cannot see, that the person can't even see, but feels so intensely. But either way, I had a problem. I maintained it. But it led me, I drew a broken heart on my shoes throughout that season. Our COVID season. I had a broken heart, and I put be a problem on one shoe, shake the world on another shoe. Be a problem, again, create your bigger picture out of broken pieces. Shake the world basically means reach your full potential. Like, strive, get there no matter where you've been. So that really carried me in those moments where I'm like, I don't think I should be doing this. Like, I think I made the wrong decision. Like, when I got, sick, or when I was injured or whatever, when I had my nasty roommate, and, all these things are like happening, when I'm being told that I'm not this enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not strong, small enough, I'm not skinny enough, whatever it is, I hear all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm triggered, I'm having flashbacks, all these things are coming to a head, and I'm like, what did I sign up for? What am I doing? We don't have a point guard. So, even though we had 4. Either way, I digress. So, all of these things are happening, and in the midst of it, we're playing a season, and we get off to the best start we've ever had, 12-0. We made it up to number 2, which is the highest ranking in team history. All the while, I am struggling. I'm struggling every single day, but I'm trying to make the best of it as the starting point guard. I'm trying to do all these things to help myself, whether it be with a problem, whether it be with, with basketball and working out and getting in extra, and all these different things that are going on with with my living situation, with all of that, trying not to let it drag me down. And I'm doing a good job of it for a large part, but I'm still scraping, still clawing, battling. And it wasn't until we played Arkansas in January, because this was right after the Kentucky game where I scored the first 11 points. But we were playing Arkansas, and right before this game, Coach Blair's like, he said something that just, I don't know, kind of burst in my bubble. I'm not really sure why it came down to him saying that, but either way he said it. But I let it affect me. I let a lot of the things that people would say to me, about me, affect me at that point. And Arkansas, I'm not having a good game. Like, it's not working. We're down consistently, maybe low double digits. So similar to Iowa State. But Arkansas and Iowa State are similar, I suppose. But we're not playing well collectively. But again, I'm not doing what I need to do. So end of the game comes around, fourth quarter, we're down. We're still down, 8, 10, 12, I don't know. And 4 minutes left. I think Coach Starkey said something that may have motivated Rock to get up and run. And he said something, and we started to do what we needed to do and make these adjustments. I'm not saying we played a perfect 4 minutes or anything, but we clawed back, that's for damn sure. So it comes down to about the end. We're down 5. Come down literally coast to coast. Sierra probably sent me a drag screen. I get in the lane and 1. Okay, hit the free throw, 2-point game. Aaliyah's hands, whatever, does something. I don't even remember what happened, but I know I dove on the floor and we got the jump ball. So, or maybe I don't remember. No, it was our possession. Time's winding down. Coach Blair calls a play, 3. Calls 3, and I'm like, Sierra, do we want to change this play? We can change the play if you want me to change the play. She's like, Jay, just do it. Do the play. I'm like, okay. So we do the play. Or I was like, at Coach Bond and Sierra, I'm like, what do y'all want to do? What do y'all tell me what we need to do so I can do it? So whatever, the options aren't open because obviously Mike Neighbors probably knew, where Coach Blair was going. And it comes down to me, and he give me the ball back. I come down, off leg finish, put it up there, ball goes in. I start face guarding Chelsea Dungy. 0.3 on the clock. I literally have goosebumps. 0.3 on the clock, and Mike Neighbors calls a timeout, and 0.3 is not any time to get a real shot up. But we're up 1. So we were down 1. We ended up being up 1 with my basket. And everybody on the bench is bugging out, and I yell, and I never really show emotion. I'm like, I scream at the top of my lungs. Because it was crazy. It was exhilarating. Everybody's like, oh my God, tripping. Because we pretty much won the game at that point. But I didn't know this till later. But I get out of the press conference. The people in Arkansas start tripping out. So I run off the court. I don't even have time for media. I literally just run to the locker room. And afterwards, I get on the bus. So Leah Wilson actually thanks me for hitting this shot, which I thought was cool. But get on the bus, and the announcer at the moment that I hit the shot said, "Jordan Nixon, New York Tough." So I'm like, I hear that. I'm like, New York Tough. I got to put that on my gram. Like, that's fine. Jordan Nixon, New York Tough. And the way he said it was so, I wish I knew the announcer's name. And I guess I should know. It's been a couple years at this point. Or about a year and a half. And something came over me. Because it's not that I was embarrassed about who I was or where I was from. But there's a certain air about New York City people in general, but especially New York City basketball players, especially New York City point guards. It's that we're arrogant. It's that, we're know-it-alls. We think we're superior. We think we'll say anything. We don't care. We're rude. We're, whatever. But in that moment, that New York Tough felt like I was certified. Like it was a certification of like, hey, I'm from New York. Like, I hit game-winning shots. Like, this shit don't faze me. And throughout that season, I mean, at that point, I didn't know this, but I would go on to hit, as I alluded to before, 2 more game winners. Against Arkansas again, and that game was a tie game, and I went to the rim. And again, I had a crap game. It was so bad. I think I airballed a floater maybe a couple of possessions before I hit the game winner. And at that point, my teammates were like, okay, run a middle ball screen for Jordan. It was like, if the play doesn't work, the same play, if it doesn't work, give Jordan a ball screen and go. Okay. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anything. It was like, go get a bucket. Like, that's all there was to it. And I knew how to do that. Hit another game winner. So then when it came down to Iowa State, and there was a decision of like, if it was, what it would come down to or whatever, it's not that I never identified as like clutch. I just knew like I'm New York tough. And even though mental health, my alien mental health was kicking my ass, and I sometimes call myself New York not so tough. I knew that in those chaotic moments, down 1, up 1, down 2, down 3, whatever was going on, I was fully prepared for that moment because of my upbringing in New York City. If you've been to New York City, and I said this in a press conference, you know what's up. You know that any given moment, anything can pop off, and you better be ready to stick and move. Figure out where you need to go. Figure out what you need to do. How who you need to call, who you shouldn't be around. Like, you have these instincts that contribute to your survival. Like, New York is not a safe place. New York is so many great things, but there's so many not great things. And that was a lot of my mentality going into a lot of those moments. Is just like, and I'm not having this full conversation because this is heat of battle. Like, there's a lot going on. But I just knew, like, okay, if I don't hit it, I don't hit it. But it never really crossed my mind that I wouldn't rise to the occasion, because that's what I'm about. That's what I'm built to do. New York breeds winners. New York breeds people who make things happen. It breeds executors. So, and people who are confident. So, in those moments, like I said, like, it's not about being clutch. It's about being prepared. It's about being certain. It's about knowing who you are and what you stand for, and knowing that you can do whatever you want to do. So when I think about New York tough, that's what I think about. And that's why The Chosen fits into all of it. The Chosen features people who have reached a certain level of success, and it frames it in a way that's like, New York built me to do this. It built me to accomplish these great things. It built me to make it out. There's a whole aura around New York, like, or inner cities, big inner cities, where make it out. That's the challenge. How do you get out of this cycle of gun violence and just violence in general, and gangs, all that's the streets. How do you get away from all of that? How do you not fall victim to this vil mentality? How do you get more? How do you reach the upper echelons of companies? How do you get to different places in the country and around the world and blah, blah, blah? And to be New York tough is to be so sure, to be so certain about who you are and what you stand for, where you come from and how it's built you to go out there and have that courage, have that confidence, have those quick instincts, have the poise under pressure, have all of that. That'll get you where you want to go, wherever that may be. So, to make a long story short, and yes, that was the short version, that's where a problem in New York Tough come from. And each of those, problems like the mother brand and New York Tea is like, New York Tea. New York Tough is like the sub brand of it. Both of them are me. I'm them. They mean everything to me, and I fully believe in what I'm doing. And I'm so glad that I have this privilege to be able to pursue those things and to believe in something, because for the longest time I had nothing to believe in because I'd given up on myself. I saw no light at the end of that tunnel. It was just so much darkness, and I was so afraid of what I could do to myself or what I would do. And I have something to believe in now, and I'm holding on to that. I have a lot of things to believe in, actually, but those two things I am full-fledged, down for cause. I'm trying to blow these brands up because I think the messages behind them need to be amplified. And if I can reach one person, I'm doing a great thing. But imagine if I could reach millions. Come on, man. You got more people reaching their potential, going through all types of craziness, and they're like, nah, I'm from New York. I'm built for this. I'm built different. I'm a problem. I am a problem. There's something that repurposing of that statement, once negative connotations and changing it into a positive, that's incredibly powerful in my mind. And when I do reach one person, I'm like, yeah, let's go. But as I start to see more and more people a problem this, New York Tough that, come on, man, that's elite. I've done something really, really good. I've turned my trauma into triumph. This is a problem in New York Tough are my bigger pictures. So that's there it is right there.